You want me to explain what happened during first contact? Again? Dr. Sarah Chen massaged her temples, looking at the eager journalism intern across her desk. Fine, but I'm warning you, it's simultaneously the most ridiculous and most embarrassing moment in human history. The intern, Mike, practically vibrated with excitement as he readied his tablet. That's exactly why I want to hear it from someone who was there. Please, Dr. Chen? Sarah sighed dramatically, but a smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Well, I suppose someone needs to document how humanity's greatest victory came about because aliens apparently skipped Physics 101. She settled back in her chair, her mind drifting back to that fateful day 5 years ago. It started like any other Tuesday at the Arecibo Observatory, which meant I was mainlining coffee and cursing at equipment that refused to cooperate. The massive radio telescope had been picking up unusual signals for weeks, but that morning they suddenly crystallized into clear, repetitive patterns. Sarah and her team had been beside themselves with excitement, analyzing the data and arguing over its implications. That's when the first ships appeared in orbit. They didn't even try to be subtle about it, Sarah continued, shaking her head. 15 massive vessels, each about the size of Manhattan, just popped into existence around Earth. The media went absolutely insane, of course. Social media exploded. Half the population was panicking. The other half was making memes about Independence Day. Mike nodded eagerly. I remember. My mom was convinced we were all going to die, but my dad just kept posting alien conspiracy theories on Facebook. Sounds about right, Sarah chuckled. The real fun started when they broadcast their message. In perfect English, no less. Apparently they'd been monitoring our communications for quite a while. Their leader, who called himself Supreme Commander Zixtal of the Galactic Hegemony, informed us that Earth was now under their control and resistance would be futile. She paused for dramatic effect. That's when things got weird. The aliens had announced their intention to land troops in major cities across the globe. Their massive ships began descending from orbit, positioning themselves over their chosen targets. The world held its breath, waiting for the invasion to begin. I was in the observatory's break room, stress-eating vending machine cookies and watching the news with my colleagues, Sarah continued. The first transport ship opened up over Beijing. We expected some kind of high-tech anti-gravity platforms or teleporters. Instead, they just started dropping troops out of the ships. Like literally just dropping them. Mike's eyes widened. Wait, they didn't know about Earth's gravity? Apparently not, Sarah burst out laughing. Can you believe it? These supposedly advanced aliens had somehow failed to account for the fact that Earth's gravity was significantly stronger than what they were used to. Their troops weren't wearing any kind of protective gear. They just jumped out expecting to float gently down like they apparently did on their home world. The results had been both horrifying and absurd. Thousands of alien troops, each about 7 feet tall with spindly limbs clearly evolved for a lower gravity environment, plummeting from the sky at terminal velocity. They hadn't even made it to the ground before their invasion plans completely fell apart. The Chinese military didn't even have to do anything. Sarah wiped tears of laughter from her eyes. The aliens literally defeated themselves. Similar scenes played out over every major city they targeted. Moscow, New York, London, Tokyo, everywhere. Just alien rain. The Supreme Commander had quickly recalled all surviving troops and demanded to know what sort of defensive gravity weapon Earth was employing. When informed that this was simply our planet's natural gravitational pull, there had been a long silence from the alien fleet. We later found out that their home world has about 0.3 Earth gravity, Sarah explained. They'd apparently conquered quite a few other worlds, but they were all similar. They'd never encountered a heavy gravity planet with intelligent life before. Their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that they'd always have the advantage of being adapted to stronger gravity than their opponents. Mike was scribbling frantically on his tablet. So what happened next? Well, after what we assume was some very awkward communication with their high command, Supreme Commander Zixtal made another announcement. He declared that Earth was clearly protected by dark powers beyond their comprehension, and that the hegemony would be generous enough to pretend they'd never found us. Sarah grinned. Of course, by then, humans had already recorded everything and were sharing it all over the internet. The videos of alien troops falling out of the sky while confused human bystanders watched went incredibly viral. Some of the memes were absolutely legendary. The alien fleet had retreated in what could only be described as embarrassed haste, but not before several of their damaged transport ships had to be abandoned in orbit. Human space agencies had quickly moved to secure them. Those ships actually advanced our technology by decades, Sarah noted. Turns out the aliens had amazing tech for space travel and communications, but they'd somehow never developed anything to deal with varying gravity levels. Their military leaders had apparently been so convinced of their physical superiority that they never bothered to consider alternatives. She gestured around her office. That's actually why I'm here now. I'm part of the team studying their FTL communication systems. We're learning a lot, even if we do occasionally find notes in their technical manuals that make us facepalm. Mike looked up from his tablet. Do you think they'll ever come back? Oh, I doubt it, Sarah smirked. Last we heard, the Supreme Commander was stripped of his rank and exiled to some backwater outpost. The hegemony officially denies Earth exists now. They literally removed us from their star charts. I think they're hoping if they ignore us long enough, everyone will forget about their embarrassing failure here. She leaned forward, her expression turning serious. But you know what the really interesting part is? We've since detected signals suggesting there are a lot more alien civilizations out there, and many of them evolved on higher gravity worlds like Earth. The hegemony had been deliberately avoiding contact with them, presumably because they knew their usual tactics wouldn't work. So we're not alone in being heavy worlders? Mike asked. Not at all. And now that we have working FTL communications... Sarah's grin turned slightly wicked. Well, let's just say Earth has been making some new friends. Turns out quite a few civilizations are interested in alliance discussions with the planet that humiliated the hegemony through the power of basic physics. She sat back, satisfied. And that, Mr. Future Journalist, is the story of how humanity joined the galactic community. Not through careful diplomatic contact or epic space battles, but because some overconfident aliens didn't do their homework about gravity. Mike finished his notes with a flourish. That's amazing. Though I have to ask, what happened to all the alien bodies that, landed? Most were recovered by their comrades before retreat, but a few ended up in research facilities, Sarah replied. There's one preserved right here in the lab, actually. We call him Newton. She paused. Get it? Because of gravity? Mike groaned at the pun, but Sarah just laughed. Hey, when you survive an alien invasion through the power of physics, you earn the right to make bad science jokes about it. Now, was there anything else you wanted to know about our brief but memorable first contact? Just one thing, Mike said, looking thoughtful. Do you ever wonder if there was more to it? Like, maybe they had some bigger plan and the gravity thing was just a cover story? Sarah snorted. Trust me, I've seen their technical documents. These are the same aliens who wrote, and I quote, Note, artificial gravity generators must be calibrated to 0.3 standard or crew, becomes uncomfortable and complains of feeling heavy. They really were just that poorly prepared. She stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the bustling research complex that had grown up around the recovered alien technology. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor. Humanity spent centuries worrying about alien invasions, building weapons, making plans. And in the end, all we needed was good old Newton's law of universal gravitation. Of course, she added with a wink. The fact that we now have working alien spaceships and a growing network of heavy world allies probably means the next alien invasion will have to be a bit more creative, but that's a story for another day. Mike saved his notes and stood up. Thank you, Dr. Chen. This is going to make an amazing article. Just make sure you emphasize the physics part, Sarah called after him as he headed for the door. And feel free to include the Newton pun. It's a classic. After the intern left, Sarah turned back to her window, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. Somewhere up there, she knew, the hegemony was still pretending Earth didn't exist, while a growing alliance of heavy world civilizations was changing the balance of power in the galaxy. All because some aliens hadn't bothered to check the local gravity before jumping out of their ships. She chuckled and went back to her desk. There was work to be done. Apparently some of their new alien allies were interested in discussing joint defense projects. Something about developing variable gravity combat suits. Sarah had a feeling the hegemony's bad day on Earth was just the beginning of their problems. But that, as she'd told Mike, was definitely a story for another time. And you're certain these specifications are accurate? Ambassador Helena Martinez studied the holographic display floating above her desk, her expression a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Dr. Sarah Chen nodded, trying to maintain her professional composure despite the ridiculousness of what they were reviewing. Completely certain. The hegemony's standard-issue combat armor is designed to be lightweight and flexible for low-gravity environments. It offers virtually no protection against impacts above 2.1 Earth Gs. 3 years had passed since the infamous gravity incident, as Earth's historians had taken to calling it. In that time, humanity had made remarkable progress in understanding and adapting alien technology. More importantly, they'd established diplomatic relations with what was now known as the Heavy World Alliance, a coalition of civilizations that had evolved on planets with gravitational forces similar to or greater than Earth's. Sometimes I still can't believe they actually tried to invade without checking basic planetary conditions, Helena mused, manipulating the hologram to examine the armor's structural weak points. Though I suppose we should be grateful for their oversight. Sarah settled into one of the embassy's ergonomic chairs, designed to accommodate the varying physiologies of their new allies. What's even more interesting is what we've learned about the hegemony's political structure since then. Apparently, they've been systematically suppressing information about heavy world civilizations for centuries. The ambassador raised an eyebrow. Oh, do tell. According to our Drachnid allies, Sarah referred to the massive six-limbed species that had evolved on a 1.3G world. The hegemony's ruling class deliberately avoided contact with heavy world species because they feared it would undermine their biological supremacy narrative. The doors to the ambassador's office whispered open, admitting a towering figure that had to duck to clear the frame. Ambassador Cathal of the Drachnid Confederation straightened to his full 12-foot height, his iridescent scales catching the light. Discussing our mutual friends again? Cathal's translator rendered his resonant speech into precise English, though it couldn't quite capture the undertone of amusement in his subsonic frequencies. Just reviewing their military capabilities, Helena replied, gesturing to the hologram. Or rather, their remarkable lack thereof when it comes to operating in our environments. Cathal moved to examine the display, his 4 primary arms crossed in what Sarah had learned was a gesture of incredulity. Their arrogance continues to astonish. On my world, we developed gravity compensation technology before we achieved powered flight. It was a necessity for exploring our own planet's varying gravitational regions. That's actually why I called this meeting, Sarah interjected, pulling up new data on the holographic display. We've been analyzing the hegemony's abandoned ships, and we've found something interesting. Their artificial gravity technology is far more sophisticated than they actually use it for. The display shifted to show complex technical schematics. They have the capability to create variable gravity fields, but they only ever use it to maintain their comfortable 0.3G environment. With some modifications, we could actually turn their own technology against them. Helena leaned forward, interest sparking in her eyes. You're suggesting we could develop countermeasures using their own systems? Better than that, Sarah grinned. We could develop ships and combat suits that could operate effectively in any gravity environment. Imagine hegemony forces facing troops who could switch from Earth normal gravity to their preferred 0.3G instantly, adapting to any battlefield conditions. Cathal's scales rippled in what Sarah recognized as excitement. The implications extend beyond military applications. This could revolutionize trade and cultural exchange between our worlds. Many of my people would love to visit Earth's cultural sites, but the gravity differential makes extended stays challenging. Exactly, Sarah stood, pacing as she warmed to her subject. We've already started prototype development at the research complex. The first variable gravity suit tests are scheduled for next month. And the hegemony remains unaware of these developments? Helena asked. Cathal made a sound that his translator rendered as a chuckle. They are still maintaining their policy of officially pretending Earth doesn't exist. Their diplomatic channels consistently route around your entire solar system in their communications. Their loss, Sarah shrugged. Though I have to admit, their continued denial has given us time to develop these technologies without interference. It's almost like they're determined to give us every possible advantage. The ambassador's computer chimed, displaying an incoming priority message. Helena's eyes widened as she read it. Speaking of advantages, it seems the hegemony has finally made a mistake we can't ignore. They just attempted a similar invasion of the Proxima Centauri colony. Sarah felt her jaw drop. They tried the same thing? Even after what happened here? Apparently, they convinced themselves that Earth was some sort of anomaly. Cathal rumbled. The Proxima colony's gravity is only slightly higher than Earth's. They must have thought that we somehow tricked them last time? Sarah finished, incredulous. Please tell me someone recorded it. Helena's smile was predatory. Better than that. The colonists were prepared. They had gravity monitoring systems in place specifically because of what happened here. They recorded everything in high definition, including the hegemony force's retreat when they realized they'd done it again. This changes things, Cathal observed. The hegemony can no longer pretend their Earth encounter was an isolated incident. Their credibility among the neutral worlds will be severely damaged. Which gives us an opportunity, Helena added. Sarah, how close are those prototype suits to being ready for a demonstration? Sarah quickly pulled up her project timeline. With adequate funding and priority access to resources, we could have a working prototype in 3 months. Make it 2, Helena ordered. I want to present this at the next Galactic Council session. It's time to show the galaxy that the Heavy World Alliance isn't just a defensive pact. We're the future of interstellar civilization. Cathal's scales shifted to a deep blue of satisfaction. The hegemony built their empire on the assumption that their physical adaptation to low gravity made them superior. How fitting that their downfall will come from the very technology they developed, but failed to fully utilize. There's a certain poetry to it, Sarah agreed. Though I have to ask, what do we do if they finally wise up and try to develop their own variable gravity systems? Helena's smile widened. That's the beauty of their denial strategy. They've spent so long pretending we don't exist that acknowledging our technological achievements would mean admitting they've been lying to their population for years. Their own propaganda has trapped them. Besides, Cathal added, by the time they decide to accept reality, we'll be years ahead of them in development. Their scientists may understand the theoretical principles, but they lack practical experience with high-gravity environments. They literally don't know what they don't know. Sarah looked between her 2 colleagues, feeling a surge of optimism about humanity's future in the galaxy. So we're really doing this? Taking on the hegemony not through direct confrontation, but by simply being better at science than they are? Indeed, Helena said, already drafting messages to various Earth governments about accelerating the project. Though I do have one small request, Dr. Chen. What's that? When you demonstrate the prototype suits at the Galactic Council, please tell me you're going to name the project Newton's Revenge. Sarah laughed. Ambassador, I wouldn't have it any other way. As they settled into planning the details, Sarah couldn't help but reflect on how far humanity had come in just a few years. From a species isolated in their solar system to a key member of an interstellar alliance, all because some aliens had failed to do their gravitational homework. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of irony as well as humor. And humanity, along with their heavy world allies, was perfectly positioned to appreciate both. The Galactic Council chamber hung suspended in space, a massive crystalline structure that served as neutral ground for interstellar diplomacy. Inside, representatives from 100 civilizations watched as Dr. Sarah Chen stepped onto the presentation platform, her variable gravity suit gleaming under the artificial lights. Honorable representatives, she began, her voice steady despite the historical weight of the moment. 1 standard year ago, the hegemony attempted to dismiss their failed Earth invasion as an isolated incident. 6 months ago, they repeated their tactical error at Proxima Centauri. Today, I stand before you to demonstrate why such mistakes will never happen again. In the diplomatic gallery, Ambassador Helena Martinez watched with carefully concealed satisfaction as the hegemony's representatives shifted uncomfortably in their specially designed low-gravity seats. Beside her, Ambassador Cathal's scales had taken on the subtle gold sheen that indicated anticipation. Sarah activated her suit's control interface, the holographic display materializing around her hand. This prototype represents a collaborative achievement between Earth scientists and our Heavy World Alliance partners. We call it Project Newton, and it's about to change everything we thought we knew about interstellar operations. The chamber's artificial gravity field was standardized at 0.7 g, a compromise that most species could tolerate for short periods. Sarah's fingers danced across the holographic controls, and suddenly she began to rise from the platform, floating as if in much lower gravity. The suit is currently compensating for gravity, matching hegemony standard conditions, she explained, executing a perfect low-gravity flip that would have been impossible in her natural Earth-born state. Now, observe. With another gesture, she dropped back to the platform with the weight of a heavy worlder, the deck creaking slightly under the increased pressure. Full Earth gravity, with the capability to increase up to 3G for combat operations. A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Even the hegemony delegation had abandoned their careful posture of indifference. But this is more than a military technology, Sarah continued, returning to normal gravity. Consider the implications for trade, cultural exchange, and medical care. Species from any gravitational background could visit each other's worlds safely and comfortably. Construction projects could be undertaken in any environment. Emergency response teams could operate effectively on any planet. Ambassador Martinez noticed several neutral world representatives leaning forward with obvious interest. The economic possibilities alone were staggering. We are prepared to offer this technology through the Heavy World Alliance's new Open Exchange Initiative, Sarah announced. Any world that wishes to participate in legitimate, documented research and development will be welcomed as a partner. The emphasis on legitimate and documented was subtle but clear, a direct challenge to the hegemony's policy of information suppression and denial. The chamber erupted in discussions as Sarah concluded her presentation. Helena turned to Cathal, speaking quietly. Well executed, though I suspect our friends in the hegemony delegation might have something to say about it. Indeed, Cathal rumbled. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, Supreme Counselor Vextal of the Hegemony, a cousin of the commander who had led the failed Earth invasion, rose to speak. The hegemony protests this provocative display of unauthorized military technology. We demand— Point of order, Helena interrupted smoothly. As Earth officially doesn't exist according to hegemony records, surely you can't object to technological developments from a non-existent world. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Vextal's facial membranes flushed with anger. This deliberate mockery is nothing compared to the mockery you've made of galactic law, Cathal interjected. We have documented evidence of 47 attempts by hegemony forces to suppress information about heavy world civilizations, including, most recently, the classified orders for the Proxima Centauri incursion. The chamber fell silent. This was new information. Helena rose, her expression stern. The Heavy World Alliance formally moves to open an investigation into the hegemony's systematic policy of information suppression and unauthorized military actions against sovereign worlds. Seconded! Came a chorus of voices, not just from Alliance members, but from several neutral worlds as well. Vextal's membrane color shifted to pale green, the hegemony equivalent of going white with shock. You cannot— We can and we will, Helena stated firmly. Unless, of course, the hegemony would prefer to acknowledge Earth's existence, apologize for their unauthorized invasion attempts, and enter into formal diplomatic relations. The trap was perfect. Either choice would force the hegemony to publicly admit to years of deception. Sarah, watching from the presentation platform, couldn't help but smile as the hegemony delegation frantically consulted among themselves. The variable gravity suit hummed softly, maintaining her Earth-normal weight despite the chamber's lighter setting. After what seemed like an eternity, Vextal spoke again, each word clearly causing him physical pain. The hegemony acknowledges the sovereignty of Earth and its colonies. We propose a recess to discuss diplomatic normalization. Motion to recess accepted, the council moderator announced. Representatives will reconvene in one standard cycle. As the chamber began to clear, Sarah made her way to where Helena and Cathal waited. That went better than expected. Indeed. Cathal's scales rippled with amusement. Though I suspect the real negotiations are about to begin. The hegemony won't surrender their perceived superiority easily. Helena's smile was pure predator. They don't have to surrender it. They just have to watch as it slips away, one trade agreement and technological exchange at a time. Speaking of technology, Sarah activated her suit's diagnostic display. We received 17 immediate requests for partnership in the exchange initiative, including 3 from worlds traditionally aligned with the hegemony. The gravity of the situation must have finally sunk in, Helena quipped, earning groans from both her companions. Please, Sarah laughed. Leave the physics puns to the professionals. Though I have to admit, seeing Vextal's face when I demonstrated the 3G capability made all those late nights in the lab worth it. The next few cycles will be crucial, Cathal observed. The hegemony will try to maintain their power through economic leverage, even as they're forced to acknowledge our existence. Let them try, Helena replied. Earth spent centuries dreaming about our place among the stars. Now that we're here, we're not about to let anyone push us back down. Sarah nodded, checking the time. I should get ready for the technical briefing with the neutral world's science delegations. Anyone want to bet how long it takes them to realize we've barely scratched the surface of what this technology can do? No bet, Cathal rumbled. Though I would wager the hegemony's research division is already working overtime trying to replicate our results. Good luck to them, Helena smiled. They'll have to completely restructure their testing facilities just to simulate the conditions they've spent centuries pretending don't exist. As they left the chamber, Sarah glanced back at the now empty platform where she'd demonstrated humanity's latest leap forward. The variable gravity suit wasn't just a technological achievement. It was proof that the galaxy's future belonged to those who could adapt and collaborate, not those who clung to outdated notions of superiority. Newton would have appreciated the irony. The same fundamental force that had revealed the laws of the universe had now reshaped the balance of power among the stars. And humanity, standing tall in its natural gravity, was ready to help forge a new and better galactic society, one where every world, regardless of its gravitational pull, could find its proper place. With all due respect, Supreme Counselor, Dr. Sarah Chen's voice carried clearly through the Galactic Council's conference chamber. Your engineers' concerns about the safety protocols are precisely why we're proposing this joint development initiative. 6 months had passed since the historic demonstration of the variable gravity suit technology. The hegemony, forced to acknowledge reality, had shifted from denial to desperate attempts to maintain their technological relevance. Supreme Counselor Vextal's facial membranes flickered with suppressed irritation. The hegemony's scientific expertise led to 2 failed invasions and numerous documented casualties due to gravitational miscalculation. Ambassador Helena Martinez interrupted smoothly. She consulted her datapad. In fact, our analysis suggests that 63% of all hegemony military operations over the past century failed due to inadequate gravitational compensation measures. The Chamber of Technology Assessment, a subsection of the main Galactic Council facility, had become the primary battleground for the ongoing power shift. Today's session was focused on establishing unified safety standards for variable gravity technology, a proposal that threatened the hegemony's remaining advantage in space travel technology. Ambassador Cathal, now serving as the Heavy World Alliance's Chief of Technological Integration, extended all 4 arms in a gesture of diplomatic inclusion. We invite hegemony scientists to participate fully in the standardization process. Their experience with low-gravity environments would be valuable in establishing comprehensive safety parameters. Sarah activated the chamber's holographic display, bringing up detailed technical schematics. Our latest prototype demonstrates the importance of collaborative development. By incorporating insights from 12 different gravitational environments, we've achieved stability across a range of 0.1 to 4.5 standard Gs. The assembled representatives leaned forward with interest. Even Vextal couldn't entirely hide his fascination with the technical displays. More importantly, Sarah continued, we've solved the energy efficiency issues that plagued early gravity manipulation technology. The new system requires only 15% of the power needed by traditional compensation fields. A murmur of appreciation ran through the chamber. Energy efficiency had long been the limiting factor in gravitational technology. If I may, a new voice interrupted. Dr. Ixel, the hegemony's chief scientist, rose from their delegation. Our analysis suggests that such efficiency improvements would require fundamental breakthroughs in field generation theory. Sarah smiled. Exactly. Which we achieved by combining hegemony field theory with heavy world gravitational engineering principles. This is precisely why collaboration is essential. She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show test results. When we provided these specifications to our development teams, the heavy world engineers immediately identified optimization opportunities that our low-gravity colleagues had missed. Conversely, the low-gravity specialists found ways to reduce field interference that we hadn't considered. Helena watched with carefully concealed satisfaction as Dr. Ixil studied the data with increasing interest. The hegemony scientific community had been quietly pushing their leadership to embrace cooperation, seeing the technological revolution that was unfolding. The proposed standards, Cathal added, would ensure safe implementation across all gravitational environments while promoting continued innovation. No single world or alliance would maintain exclusive control over the technology's development. Vextal's membranes pulsed with resignation. The political reality was clear. Resist and be left behind, or cooperate and maintain relevance. The hegemony, he announced carefully, would be willing to discuss participation in the Standardization Committee. Excellent, Helena replied. We anticipated your interest and have prepared a preliminary framework for collaboration. As the details were discussed, Sarah found herself reflecting on how far they'd come. Just 2 years ago, the hegemony had been pretending Earth didn't exist. Now they were negotiating as equals. During a brief recess, she joined Helena and Cathal in a private conference room. Did you see Dr. Ixil's reaction to the efficiency data? She asked, grinning. Indeed. Cathal's scales shimmered with amusement. I suspect we'll be seeing a surge of research proposals from hegemony institutions. Helena nodded. Their scientific community has been quietly reaching out through back channels for months. This gives them the political cover they need to pursue open collaboration. And not a moment too soon. Sarah activated her personal display, showing recent survey data. We've identified 37 potentially habitable worlds in the past year alone. each with different gravitational conditions. The final frontier, Cathal mused, turned out to be our ability to adapt to each other's environments rather than merely reaching them. Speaking of adaptation, Helena checked her schedule. The first class of mixed gravity diplomatic trainees graduates next week. Every major civilization represented, all able to function comfortably in any member world's environment. Sarah smiled, remembering her own initial demonstration. From failed invasion to shared innovation in 2 years. I don't think even Newton could have predicted that particular application of his laws. The universe does seem to appreciate irony, Cathal observed. Though I suspect our next challenges will be more complex than mere gravitational differences. True, Helena agreed. But we've proven that seemingly insurmountable physical limitations can be overcome through cooperation. That sets a powerful precedent. The chamber's notification system chimed, indicating the recess was ending. As they returned to their positions, Sarah noticed Dr. Ixel deep in conversation with several other hegemony scientists, their expressions animated with intellectual excitement. You know, she whispered to Helena, I almost feel sorry for their political leadership. They're about to discover that scientists, regardless of their gravity of origin, are impossible to control once they get excited about new research possibilities. Helena's diplomatic mask cracked slightly with a smile. I suspect that's a universal constant even Newton didn't document. As the session resumed, Sarah watched the proceedings with quiet satisfaction. The variable gravity technology had started as a response to invasion, but it had evolved into something far more significant. A bridge between worlds that had once seemed forever separated by the fundamental forces of nature. The future would bring new challenges, certainly, but humanity and their allies had learned perhaps the most important lesson of all. In space, no one can hear you scheme, but physics will always have the last laugh. The end.